The idea of the availability or shortage of money at a given time produces effort or paralysis, and the gold reserves that lie in the bank vaults as cover for their notes demonstrate clearly that the merely psychological representation of money is fully effective. In this instance, money can truly be described as the unmoved mover. It is obvious that the effect of this merely potential money depends upon the refinement and stability of the economic organization. Wherever social relations are loose, sporadic and sluggish, sales will be made only for cash, and the immobile money will not make use of the many psychological channels through which it can operate. The dual role of money that is lent should also be considered here, first in the ideal, but very significant form of active debts, and second as a reality in the hands of the debtor. As a claim it counts among the assets of the creditor, and although it is not immediately available it is still very effective. On the other hand, although it does not form part of the debtor's property, he can still achieve the same economic effects as if it did. The lending of money divides its activity into two parts and increases enormously the product of its economic energy. But the intellectual abstraction on which this process rests can attain its results only in a firmly established and civilized social order, in which it is possible to lend money with relative security and to base economic activity on this partial function of money. A certain comprehensiveness and intensity of social relations is required for money to become effective, otherwise it does not differ at all from other goods that are exchanged, and a further intensification of social relations is needed in order to intellectualize its effects. These conspicuous phenomena illustrate clearly that the inner nature of money is only loosely tied to its material basis, since money is entirely a sociological phenomenon, a form of human interaction. Its character stands out all the more clearly the more concentrated, dependable, and agreeable social relations are. Indeed, the general stability and reliability of cultural interaction influences all the external aspects of money. Only in a stable and closely organized society that assures mutual protection and provides safeguards against a variety of elemental dangers, both external and psychological, is it possible for such a delicate and easily destroyed material as paper to become the representative of the highest money value. In the Middle Ages, characteristically, leather money was very often used. If paper money signifies the progressive dissolution of money value into purely functional value, then leather money may be regarded as symbolizing the first step towards it. Leather money preserves, out of all the qualities that characterize money as a substance, the quality of relative indestructibility. This quality can be surrendered only when the structure of individual and social relations has reached an advanced stage. Monetary policy, the theory and practice of monetary policy, confirm the course of development from the substantial to the functional significance of money, as well as the dependence of the latter upon sociological conditions. The fiscalism of the Middle Ages and mercantilism may be regarded as materialistic monetary policies. Just as materialism incorporates the phenomena and values of spirit into matter, so fiscalism and mercantilism considered the nature and energy of socio-political life tied to the material of money. The same difference exists between them, however, as between the crude and the sophisticated form of materialism. The former claims that perception itself is a material process, that the brain produces thoughts just as the liver secretes bile. The latter asserts that perception itself is not material, but is a form of movement of the material, that thoughts consist of a special kind of oscillation of material elements, as do light, heat, or electricity. In accordance with this difference of intellectual outlook, fiscalism discerns the interest of government as being to acquire as much ready money as possible for direct use by the princes for government purposes, while mercantilism, on the other hand, lays the greatest stress not upon the accumulation of money but upon the stimulation of economic activity. These materialistic trends of monetary policy are still closely associated with the idea that the money material represents value as such, But the change from a crudely objective to a functional significance of this material is already discernible. The political constitutions of these periods correspond with this situation. Where the medieval fiscal constitution prevails, the prince has only an external, not an organic, relationship to his country, which is established by marriage or conquest and is well indicated by the tendency to extract as much money as possible from the country. The frequent sale of whole territories for money was a logical conclusion of this tendency. The purely monetary connection between ruler and subject demonstrated the absence of any other relationship. The continuous depreciation of the currency by medieval rulers was an appropriate technique within such a sociological relationship, for these methods, which give all the benefits to one side and the entire loss to the other, are possible only when an organic relationship is lacking. The love of ready money, which seems to be an innate characteristic of Oriental peoples, has been traced to the fiscal policy of their rulers, who use the royal prerogative of coinage as a means of taxation without concern for the consequences of devaluation. The necessary counterpart of this policy is the passion of their subjects for accumulating ready money in the form of gold and silver. The emergence of the centralized despotic state involved a much closer and more vital relationship among the various political elements, and the idea of an organic whole provides a common basis for the princely ideal, from l'état c'est moi to the notion of the king as the first servant of his people. Although the interest of the government is still in this case directed towards the import of ample quantities of money material, i.e. bullion, the livelier interaction between the head and the members of the state and the greater animation of political life are reflected in the fact that the ultimate end of acquisition is no longer mere ownership but the nurture and growth of industry by money. When these liberal tendencies have produced a freer flow of political life, an unhampered flexibility, and a less stable equilibrium of elements, the material basis was prepared for Adam Smith's theory that gold and silver are merely tools, no different from kitchen utensils, and that their import increases the wealth of a country just as little as the multiplication of kitchen utensils provides more food. When the traditional regulation of money material has been abolished, in order to make way for more anarchistic ideas, this new tendency of monetary theory, as might be expected, leads to another extreme. Proudhon, who wants to abolish all established forms of the state and to recognize only the free and direct interaction of individuals as the proper form of social life, attacks the use of money in general, seeing it as exactly analogous to those forms of authority that absorb the living interaction of individuals and crystallize it within themselves. The exchangeability of values should be organized without money as an intermediary, just as the administration of society should be accomplished by all citizens without the intervention of the king. In the same way as every citizen has voting rights, so every commodity should represent value without the mediation of money. The trend towards this theory of money, which may be characterized as transcendental by contrast with the materialistic theory, began with the views of Adam Smith. While materialism asserts that mind is matter, the transcendental philosophy teaches that matter itself is mind. This does not refer to mind in the spiritualist sense, as a substance, an autonomous being, although of an immaterial kind, but to the knowledge that any object, whether physical or mental, exists for us only in so far as it is conceived by the active process of the mind, or more precisely, in so far as it is a function of the mind.